is a little bit, you know, strange for us. We've been meeting for the last 2 years every week, but this is a little bit different kind of a format. So I just want to introduce myself and tell you a little bit about me, and then Terry can do that too, and then we can go back and then start talking about issues with the water district for you. So I was born and raised in Corning, so I am a Northern California girl. I met John when I was a freshman in high school, and he was a junior. We dated for 4 years, and we got married in 1977. So we've been married 45 years. We have 2 children. One lives in Cottonwood with 2 boys, and our son lives in Redding, and he has 4 boys. So we have 6 grandsons. We moved out. Once we got married, we were up here for 3 years, and then we moved to Chico so John could finish school, and he was a teacher out at West Valley, and he retired at West Valley High School in 2016. We moved out here in 1999, and we've been out here in the valley since then, and we're at the west end of Olinda Road. So that's kind of my little short synopsis. I work for the Postal Service. I started my career with the post office, and I started actually in the city of Redding in the planning department in 1977, right after we got married. And I went to the town of Paradise when we moved to Chico, and worked there in the planning department until I got hired on in 1982 with the post office here in Redding. So I retired in 2012 after 30 years of service with the Postal Service. So my last position was actually postmaster of Cottonwood. So I spent the last 20 years of my career in management positions with the post office. So, okay, that's it on me.
Oh boy. I'm Terry Lincoln. I worked for the federal government, Bureau of Indian Affairs. I had 44 years, 4 years of military, and I had like 6 months of Department of Defense, and then the rest was with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Moving around we lived in Arizona, 2 different agencies there, and then I moved to Hoopa, and we closed the Hoopa agency down and moved it to Redding, and I worked here till the end of my career. So, and I started out as an electrician, went to a maintenance foreman, went to an air conditioning person, then I went into management and I did housing for the tribes, and then I did self-determination contracts for the tribe where we wrote contracts, helped the tribes with whatever they wanted, worked very closely with HUD and Indian Health Service to get grants and that for the tribes. So I've worked the field and the office, and we got married. My wife and I got married in 76, 75.
Oh, good job. Oh,
75. I've got 2 daughters and a granddaughter, so yeah. Oh, I thought somebody asked a question.
No, not yet.
That's basically where I come from, so I'm ready for questions.
Yeah. So just so you know, the last 2 years we've been meeting every week, just finding out as much information as we can with the water district, where it's gone wrong, what has happened, you know, where do we go from here. So we've got a lot of information, and we can share as much as we can. So we would have, I think both Terry and I were taking the back road of going in and investigating things and not being part of the board. It was a choice to be more of a watchdog than an upfront in there. We thought we were more effective, but we realize now that we've got to be able to step forward so we can get in there and really start, you know, breaking down the numbers with finances and the inner workings of the district. So, but we're welcome any questions anybody might have.
I have a question. Can you explain what a snow day is?
Explain why.
We're not 100% sure about the snow days. So one of the things we did a year ago is Emily Rankin and I went in, and there was a couple of other people. I think your wife came in too.
I was there.
But we sat down and really went through time cards. And that's one of the biggest problems is personnel costs. But with the time cards, we found a lot of discrepancies and a lot of issues and a lot of problems. And one of them on the timesheets, it said snow day. There's nothing in their MOU that gives them access to have a snow day. A snow day would be you get paid for not showing up for work, we assume, because it just said snow day. So we don't know if somebody actually got a snow day or if they were marking it was a snow day. We don't know because we couldn't look at payroll. All we could look at were time cards. So, but it was listed on their time card as a snow day. So that's all we know about snow days.
Do we know where the money went when they sold the water?
When we sold any water, you mean
No,
like?
we sold a bunch of water and then we had to turn around and buy it and call them found.
When did we sell,
Why, we sold water, our water, that's what I was told.
So not in the last 2 years have we sold any water, but if we have an access to, when it was like, say, 2019, when we had lots and lots of water, we had the ability to have 15,300 acre feet of water. So if we have access to that and somebody needs more, we can sell that extra water and make a little bit of money.
And when they do that, where'd the money go?
Well, it goes into their general fund, and that's what we don't like. Everything goes into a general fund, and you never see the breakdown. So that's one of the things that we want to look at is the breakdown. There was a general ledger that we finally did see that Christie had put together, and that this was they gave out in June or July, and we finally saw the accounts like expansion and modernization and merchant account and the monies that were in some of these sub accounts. It all goes into the general checking account, and from there then they start shooting it out to different sub accounts.
I
And
have a list of all those.
but is it on a percentage?
No, and it's broken down. I can't share it with you because I have to remove the account numbers. I can't let that out to the general public. The amounts, yes, but not the actual account numbers.
We should introduce Scott too.
Scott is Scott McVeigh. He is a director for the water board. He had been part of our group for the last 2 years, and finally after 6 times,
Yeah.
6 times, they finally, he put an application in to become a board member, and so he was appointed in June as a board member. So he will be running in 2024 with Irwin. Yes, Dennis?
Yes, once you're on the board, what are you gonna do? Both of them.
I like that.
I'm gonna do whatever you tell me to,
Okay.
Dennis.
Dennis said, what are we gonna do once we get on the board?
I'll vote for him.
I don't know, Beverly and I talked about it when we first started this, about we want to see better transparency, the balanced budget, repair and infrastructure, and be a voice for the community so that people can get hold of us and we can be a voice. And I also want to work on staff professionalism, proper use and accountability of the equipment, safety, and updating the policies and procedures, because some of them are real old. So those are just a few of the things that I wrote down.
So to piggyback that, when we started going in and investigating things, there's so much wrong with those old policies and procedures. And so we have to try to prioritize, where is it, what are we gonna do? When I look at the finances, I look at it as, that's my checking account. I can't withdraw. I can't be in the hole or they're coming after me.
Yeah.
So why can the district run as a negative, And so that's one of the big things that we have to look at is that. But we do have to prioritize. They keep saying, well, we're gonna have a planning and steering committee, and that one is also, that's where you've got to start planning some of our infrastructures. We have got to fix our problems. And I know Dennis back there had mentioned that let's do it maybe street by street, But we've gotta look at, do we have to have an engineering report for the whole kit and caboodle? Or can we do it by some certain streets and where we have the biggest problems and go in and do it? That's the thing that we have to go in. I can give you my promise, come election day, if I am elected, I will be down there training and getting all of my stuff ready beforehand for January when we get on the board. But I will be down there reading and looking at all the numbers and the facts and all of that. And the other thing is a lot of you here have my phone number, address, email, or whatever. It has got to be transparent. So if there's issues, you've got to let us know. I am on Facebook, so I see some of the comments. You can reach out to me that way too, or on Messenger. We were all complacent with the water district, thinking everything was fine, the rates were cheap. We didn't realize that we were bleeding money, and they had been bleeding money for a long time. And all these rate increases that they did every year, they did a CCI, what was that called?
Construction cost index.
Yeah, construction cost index. Those were all done illegally. And just, once you start investigating and you just find this they did wrong, this was wrong, and this was wrong. And they continue to try to do that. The budget they were gonna pass the budget in June without a public hearing. Without a public hearing. And then they come back and say, well, this is the public hearing. Where is it on the agenda? Where is it being notified? Where is it on anything? And there was nothing. Did you know that our group actually contacted the grand jury? The grand jury was at that meeting in June. And so they heard them trying to push that budget through. So that was good. At least they, were staying on top of them. And that's my goal to all of you, is that I'm a rule follower. And that's a blessing and a curse, because I want to follow the rules. And sometimes you've got to bend those rules a little bit, but I am a rule follower, and if it says it takes this long to do something because we have to do this, then that's what I'm gonna do. So.
Erwin said something about if we got a contractor to put the new lines in, excuse me, that they would want their money up front. Now, I've never known a contractor that gets all their money up front. And he
When the
even
job
made
is
that
complete.
statement. No, he didn't say that. He said they're gonna want their money up front. And I thought, I've never known a contractor once. And I said, we're short money, why would we pay a contractor for a job that's not complete?
Well, it's illegal to pay them up front,
Yes,
so,
it is.
Yeah,
They can't get more than 10% up front.
That's correct.
$4,000.
right.
Yeah.
and I just went, oh my God. He said that, I just went.
So if you guys both get elected and you have Scott on there, I would really take a hard look at your bylaws and see if you can have a new chairman of the board there.
Oh, that'll happen in January. There'll
Okay,
be a
good,
vote.
good.
It's every year anyway.
Okay.
And that'll happen.
How many folks are running for the board?
There are 3 people running for 2 positions. So, yeah, so the other person is the appointed incumbent, and that's Patricia Delzell, and she was appointed in May. So,
She's not here to defend herself.
yeah, she just chose not to come, so I don't know. Patricia has just struggled with getting herself in there and getting enough information, so I know she feels a little bit reticent about coming and expressing herself.
Okay,
So.
thank you.
But she hasn't come to any of the meetings to become more educated about what's going on.
She came to one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was here at one.
She missed the last finance committee meeting. She told me she had COVID, but that was why she missed a board meeting earlier in July, I believe.
No, August
Was
7th,
one?
yeah, August 17th.
So it was, I don't know. I ran the meeting alone.
Well, I don't understand why she's even running.
Neither do we.
I don't know, I don't know either. I think it's because they told her she had to. So, but.
She's
so
a nice lady,
She is a very nice
but
lady.
she's lost in the weeds.
Yeah,
Very
so,
unfortunately.
Yeah, we noticed that.
She's
Yeah.
too quiet to be on the board.
Well, no,
if you sit next to me, everybody's quiet.
Well,
But that's what they wanted.
Irwin, who just pushes people
Who's
through.
going off the board right now?
Johanna is
Johanna.
going off the
Right,
board,
she's retired.
and then Patricia's position. So,
Okay.
Okay.
You guys- so it's Johanna and Patricia.
Are up for reelection.
no, not Johanna. Johanna's off.
She's off, she has not put her name in, so she will not be on the ballot.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
one of us will be in there.
Yeah, one
Yeah,
of
one
the
of
two,
us will
at
be
a
in there.
minimum.
Yeah,
In
How
two
much
years,
longer does Irwin have?
2024.
in 2 years' time, my position, Irwin's and Chuck Jones's positions are all up. I will run one more time. But I think the term limits and getting fresh ideas in is a good thing. I'm not gonna be 80 on the board, I'm sorry.
We already have that, sorry.
I think the mindset's a little different though.
I would like to know, are you gonna be able to write grants if you are elected? Will you be able to help us with?
We're trying to, Scott brought it up, I've been bringing it up for 2 years. We need a professional grants writer that writes grants, puts himself into it, so he's got a continuing job. That's what we need, you know. I reviewed grants, I've never actually written a grant, I've helped the tribes write their HUD grants and Indian health grants and stuff like that, but I've never actually sat down. There's a template, you know, it's, once you get all the information, you fill in the
Fill in the blanks.
boxes and,
Yeah.
you know, but you've gotta know where to go to look for the grants, cause when I worked for the tribes, or for the Bureau of Indian Affairs, every year, this friend of mine and I, we would go out to the tribes and we would take 2 binders that were that thick, 2 of them. So it was that thick of nothing but grants. And all the tribes hired professional grant writers. They'd go through there and find all sorts of stuff. And the one I like to bring up is, I was friends with the chairman at Blue Lake, chairwoman at the Blue Lake Rancheria. She was building greenhouses. She wrote a grant for $800 for a greenhouse to some church back east. And that got all the stuff to build her greenhouse, and that's the kind of stuff we need. So, but you need a professional that knows where to go. And
Yes, John.
I was very concerned when I found out that leak, we lost.
On Olinda, probably 4.5 acre-feet of water.
It seems to me that there should be
Maybe
somebody out there that would be concerned about this much water being lost, because our infrastructure needs to be improved. You know, I can't believe there's not an agency that wouldn't give us a grant.
Well, it was explained last night that the one grant, the five to 6 million they're working on,
Yeah, taking
was
forever,
not
but-
approved because we were not in a financial
But
position.
aren't there any
cover-
emergency things?
Nobody's been, the staff right now is short and overworked, and no one on the board has stepped to do that. I have brought it up in a couple of board meetings that we need to hire a grant writer.
Right, because there's gotta be
And
something out
it
there.
hasn't seemed to have gotten any traction. Right now, there's an open window with Department of Water Resources for drought relief for small agencies. Perfect fit for us. We just have to step in, fill in the boxes, and apply.
So it's not just fill in the boxes.
Well,
So
it's
our,
doing that,
so,
but yes.
so our group actually looked at grants there for a while. We pulled some information. I know Sarah back there did also. And I got onto the Department of Water Resources and looked at that. Some of the information they wanted for your grant was all technical stuff
Oh,
that
yes.
you had to get from the district.
Mhm.
So it's not just an easy, say we need water or whatever, but you would think that with the water being out for 2 or 3 days for some of these people, that there's got to be some kind of an emergency water issue, because didn't Jones Valley get something, or there was someplace else that had some kind of an emergency grant? So it does take somebody to do some research, and it's just not easy. Yes, Charles?
I think the county's, Chris might know about this, the county is supposed to be able to deliver water to you if you're distraught. They got a grant like at the beginning of the year.
I don't think they,
Like a well
I don't think they,
going dry.
yeah, I don't think they deliver it, Charles. I think you can go and get, water somewhere, free water somewhere. You have to haul it
There's
yourself.
free water from the county though,
Yeah,
and they'll deliver up to a certain point, if you meet a financial deadline or break.
You
Yeah.
also have to not be in a district. The problem is we're in a water district. Part of those requirements, because my mom looked into it, because there was money as part of that grant for people to get new wells. But if you were already in part of an existing water district, you were not eligible for it. So somebody who was like in Shingletown, who lived on well or gravity fed water, they were eligible for those kind of situations. But unfortunately, for people who are already within a district, they had to rely within their district.
And then the help right now is you have to be under 50,000 or 65,000 per household to qualify for the new well, which all the houses in Wooded Acres over by Kent's Meats, they're all going dry. The wells are going dry. Well, who owns a, very few of them own a house that are under $50,000 for the household. So almost nobody, well, there's one person, one household that qualified for the federal grant for that. And we've been hauling in private people in the water users group has been hauling water to everybody around Cottonwood, Cottonwood and Anderson. So there was no county help available. County hasn't helped anything with that.
And Bill last night said that one of his neighbors, his well has already gone dry in Churn Creek Bottom.
Right.
Yep.
No water to recharge. running
You
through the
have
ditches.
to, you have to understand the board has been thinking that we're gonna go away. The committee's gonna go away and leave them alone. But we've been going to the board meetings, we've been,
That's why they finally accepted Scott.
Yeah, that's why they
well,
finally.
that's probably why, but they did everything in they could not to have Scott, because Scott, if you listen to him at the board meeting last night, Scott went through the financials like they've probably never been gone through. And so that we will have a majority if we can get Terry and Beverly in so that we can actually make some headway.
And we wouldn't have to stress.
What happened with that big financial audit that they approved last year?
It's coming through, it's in partner review right now.
So it actually got finished in June, and now they're just completing their report process. They did an exit interview with the district at the end of June. So they said a month they'd have the report. Well, here it is, July, August, September. So I asked that question last night, and it's still not available. So they had asked for a couple more questions. This group, though, out of Chico, did their due diligence. So
Yes.
we should have an awesome report once we can get our hands on it.
And then what about the new general manager? Did they hire that person?
Okay, so Scott's not here, you don't see him. I was frustrated as all get out last night about that. So after the closed session, so I understand the wheels of government move slowly, but they interviewed this guy a month ago, or maybe it's been 2 months.
It has.
Are you talking Darren or Paul?
I'm talking about Paul, the Kelly guy. So the last person they interviewed, they went in closed session, and then they came back and said, okay, we're gonna move forward. A month later goes, last night, and they have their meeting, and they come out of their closed session, and they say, and Scott's not here, and they say,
In other words,
they say, okay, we're gonna move forward. And it's like, well, what did you do for the last month? My gosh, you said you were gonna go forward, where's the contract, where's the or they're gonna move forward with negotiations. Well, why didn't you? And maybe there was more in the closed sessions that he can't talk about and we don't need to know about, but it just is frustrating, that it's taking so long to get somebody hired.
So Bill didn't quit this?
No,
No.
one thing I can share with you is, we have a signed offer letter. I generated an offer letter after a number of meetings with Erwin and I. The gentleman reviewed it, had a couple of questions, I responded back, he signed and returned the offer letter to me. So we are now finalizing the last bits of negotiation so that the contract reads properly, okay? And then at that point, we'll meet as a whole board in a closed session, review it, and present the contract to him. If it's approved for signature, we will then have to do our due diligence and background checks and whatnot, and he will have to give proper notice where he works, which could be 30 to 60 days.
So you're looking January probably.
Well, December to January, because he can't just the next day walk in here and say, I'm starting.
his own consulting firm.
No, he does a little bit, but he's pretty much shutting that down. He works for another government entity right now. Okay, I can't share it with.
TJ?
Why are we doing the job offer prior to doing the background investigation?
Because that's part of the process of getting it there. A general meeting of the minds, because why do a background, spend the money for background checks if we can't even come to terms? We are so close to agreeing on everything.
If we find something in his background, it's all been wasted time.
Start over.
A background investigation you could have done in a couple of days.
I have done my due diligence as a board member. I have done a fairly extensive background check that I can through government agencies, going to the places where he worked, pulling up their board packets, their meetings, the minutes of the meetings and whatnot. And I am comfortable in hiring him based on that.
Now, would this be a permanent person or is he
Yes.
the intern?
No, permanent.
Okay, cause they said something last night about we were gonna have an intern.
We are
and
working
then-
on that also as a backstop, okay, at the same time, not dragging our feet, but doing both. Because it could be another 2 to 3 months before a full-time, we're working on an interim as a part-time. He's retired through PERS, but he works for an engineering company, and he could come in as an employee of the engineering company under a contract that we have with his company and work a 40-hour week, no problem. With PERS, retiree, you can only work 960 hours a year, and that would be gone real fast if we weren't able to find somebody. So we in closed session talked about a few different opportunities, and I can't go into too much detail, but right now the contract is in legal, and they're working out between our district and the engineering company an agreeable contract to bring him in on an interim basis so that Mr. Palma Mesa can go back to the filtration plant.
Yay.
Okay?
So one of the things that I'm hoping to accomplish too, getting on the board, is having some workshops and some brainstorming sessions. Because, there was a gentleman last night, Mark Kroll, very intelligent man that has a lot of engineering background, and he knows about the pipes and the lines and this and that. But that's, what Dennis had mentioned about just doing sections. We've got to start thinking outside of the box. We get ourselves pigeonholed, and so if we can have some workshops and just focus on one issue, of what we want to try to accomplish here. I know Scott mentioned that the numbers looked better with our finances, but when they approved the budget, it balanced. So for the whole year, they were not putting anything in reserves. Bill said that all of the reserve money is going to the additional expenses and the extra cost of supplies of things because of everything going up. So if we're breaking even, we're not getting ahead. So so I appreciate the board lowering their wages, their compensation. That's a great start. But that's the other thing we have to do is in 2019, when we had the first meeting, when they were gonna try to do the rate increase, we had a big stink at the school, and it was like, where are you trying to cut costs? Well, they never came back to tell us how they were cutting costs. So I wanna make sure that we go in there and look at every stinking line item and see where we can cut costs. We have to. And I just don't understand, well, we've got less employees. Okay, but what have you really done to cut costs? We go to a grocery store and maybe we buy $2 worth of chocolate chips instead of the $4 thing of chocolate chips. I'm not saying we've got to buy inferior product to replace our infrastructure, but there are other things that we can do to look at. So I think with saving $3,000 to $6,000 on compensation for the board members, if you look at, what else is there?
Benefits.
Well, yeah, and that's the other big thing, is that the union now has come through, I think they said a 91-page MOU is probably what they're proposing, and we can't get our hands on it. So it's going to be up to Erwin and Chuck to review this MOU and make a decision probably with the whole board then.
Two people who have no clue.
They
Yeah.
have they'll be putting a recommendation forward to the board. I can tell you that I will ask for 2 weeks to review the MOU in detail, and I'll have plenty of questions.
Well, and we asked to be part of that process too, that we wanted to be able to see, that before it gets approved. Because we're gonna
Bring it up.
have,
Bring it up at the next meeting.
well, we did that before, and we
Okay.
gave this group, the HVCC put together a group of concerns based upon the last MOU.
I know.
So I
Because
don't
they
know,
wanted it in written notice.
yep,
And
And-
we handed it to them in written notice.
yeah, and Sarah did her own, and then this group did one too,
And I have a copy of them,
so.
and I've looked them over.
So, but, until we can get our hands on that MOU and see, because one of the things that I know Sarah had pointed out, earlier, and then Pam mentioned it last night, is personnel costs. It is for the retirement, it's 100%.
100% medical for the rest of their life.
Yes, and I'm working on that. That's my next project I'm working on, okay?
So,
Can't do anything about current employees. In this year's budget for lifetime medical, there's $135,000. That's in the budget. Estimates are now that it'll come in more like 109, so we're able to save 15,000 there.
wait, what do you mean by lifetime medical? It's once you retire.
Retired employees getting lifetime medical.
So you
How many
current,
years do you have to have before you get to retire, though?
5.
Through PERS, it's 20 and 5 in the last district you worked. Okay, so if we hire someone and they work in our district as an employee in any fashion for at least 5 years, and during that 5 years or prior to it, they have hit 20, we are on the hook right now through an ordinance 2012-4, I think.
Just wanted to make sure on that, because
That
as per
we would
it's
then
5
pay
years
that,
and then
okay?
to get vested in 20 years.
but
for-
And that's all the retired employees, people that retired.
it does say
After
in there that
25.
when they hit 65, they have to go over to Medicare.
But I've looked at the numbers, and yes, they do go to Medicare, but they get like premium supplement plans.
Yes, they did.
And it might be, maybe we were paying $1,500 a month for that person, it would drop to maybe $1,300, so it's not that much savings. That's why I'm looking at, and I've already discussed with you others,
But I
what
would
we
think
need
with.
to do to remove that, because it
Yeah.
won't affect the current employees, just new hires.
Why not the current employees?
Because it's locked in,
It's grandfathered.
it's grandfathered.
So that means Skip, who's out of the picture, is gonna get this.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, he's part of that.
Well, there,
130.
and according to him, cause I thought if you change the MOU, it's no longer valid than the old plan. So you're saying that current MOU follows forever?
Under the medical, lifetime medical?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I wouldn't think so,
it does.
so.
And
that's-
look up 2012, I think it's
Yeah.
04.
But there's another very well, person in our district, Natalie Heiser, I don't know if anybody knows Natalie, and she did extensive PERS, her job included all things PERS, so she knew a lot of this stuff, and I wanna try to meet with her too, to try to get a better
And
understanding.
when I hold a finance committee meeting for that, I would appreciate your guys' input,
So,
because I can't know everything. So anybody in the community with background or knowledge in areas, it's really helpful to the board to come to our standing committee meetings and give your input. Give us, help educate us, so we make the right decisions.
Is there a
for
reason
everybody.
we have PERS employees?
Yes,
Because we're a government agency.
Yeah.
Even though it's a special district, it still falls under. a
Yes,
government
Joanne.
agency.
I worked for a school district down in the Bay Area, and I retired with medical. And that was, I retired in 2004. Last year, I got a letter from them saying they had dropped out of CalPERS, and I would no longer be covered under their health insurance, and I now had to find my own health insurance.
because they dropped
wow,
out of CalPERS,
Well,
okay? Now,
Can you
you
do the
might have a
same?
challenge.
yeah,
That would mean
Okay.
that the members of the staff would have to vote. The
I
board
didn't
can't
vote.
say you can't know,
I
but
didn't
the
vote.
current staff, and you might, I don't know if you would have had a chance or not, I don't know how the MOU worked, whether you would have had a vote or not in it as a retiree. But if the staff, current working staff in the district voted to drop CalPERS because that's their union representative.
Yeah, I don't know why they would do that.
And, you know, they chose to, you know, stay with CalPERS. And our, staff at the office have chosen to stay there.
And what Scott is saying and what Beverly is saying, I would venture to say that many of the directors don't have a clue about any of this. And
No,
don't
no.
care to get a clue.
No. That's why it's important to get some new people on board, okay? Patricia's a nice lady, but she has no clue. Erwin has been there for years, and I don't know how many board meetings, he said, I've never understood the finances.
You can't hear either.
Well,
We ought to buy him a hearing.
Drives me nuts.
I
He
know.
can hear when he wants to.
Ah,
He's also easy to anger,
yeah.
but you know what?
But we're not allowed to, I noticed. We're not allowed to get upset.
So what are some of your guys' concerns? You know, I've got my pen and paper here that we can write down things that you think at this point that we as candidates, if we get in there, can work on. What kind of thoughts?
Next year's water.
I'm already working on that, I'm trying to figure out if we
I
can
have
start the
one.
year at,
Okay.
because it'll still be throughout the year, at least start at 40 units instead of 29. I got it, but the first thing I did was got it bumped from 29 to 40, but I'm hoping we can secure enough water to at least start at 40. I can't tell you all the details right now because I have to keep it private, but I'm hoping with the next general manager, I can have a sit down and we'll start working with a different public entity and try to secure some water. I can't promise to do it, but try to secure some water at a cheaper rate and maybe more.
So we're gonna do Brenda first and then Sandy.
I had the privilege for front row observation of 4 different breaks on Olinda Road. In the past 3 months.
Yep.
And, having only 1 employee with a Class A license, they weren't able to use the dump truck because the driver was not available. So they roaded the backhoe. It roaded fine. They were able to do the backhoe on 2 of the breaks, but then they subbed out the work on the other breaks. Would you be willing to check into that dump truck? If they can road it, the backhoe, why do we have the dump truck? You have the payment on the dump truck, you have the license, we're trying to cut costs. You have the insurance, you have the DOT,
Motor carrier permits.
which is that, and the wages for the Class A driver. So,
Who's a supervisor in the office? He's the field staff supervisor.
okay,
That's the only one that has a Class A?
that's
Is
the
the
only
super-
one. So we have a big problem there, but if we're trying to cut some areas, my point is they're subbing it out anyways. So it's kinda, you have to say, okay, can we get by with a fewer employees or what have you, I don't know. And then sub the work out, they get it done faster.
Or do an incentive
Or,
within the contract that the other employees who are not supervisors who are available, it's $1,500 to go through, 15 to 2,000 to go through Jiffy's to follow the California classifications and requirements for a rental truck and to get your Class A certification of a driver's license to be a commercial driver.
I do not recommend using the current staff in that fashion.
Which,
right,
sure,
but what
I
I'm
don't disagree
saying,
with
you
that.
can call
but-
Sunrise and have them drop what they need, that's what they did this last time. Axner brought out 2 truckloads, they
And
had
some
it all
staff.
right there. Guess what? No, it didn't cost us the staff on that.
Yeah.
And the wear and tear. So would you be willing to check
Absolutely.
into that?
Got it written down. Sandy?
This candidate for our, new director, does he have any agricultural background at all?
Fairly extensive public entities, in water districts. He, was selected by a board to fill in when their director or their general manager went out on medical leave. He's well thought of. He belongs to a number of, government boards. We won't have to pay for his, licenses or, dues for those things. We've already discussed that. He's been the general manager of at least one water district. I've gone into the minutes of those districts and things to read up. He was brought in as an interim manager in one water district, hired from outside. And from all the minutes, they were very appreciative of everything he did. I got to read his comments at the different board meetings and whatnot. I've spent hours.
Was it a local district?
No.
So Sandy, we're gonna let Jackie, stand up and talk a little bit. So we went to the closed session when they were interviewing this gentleman, and he was in the audience, and we, Terry and I went up to him and introduced ourselves, and he gave us his name. And Jackie did what?
I, basically, I went to Healdsburg, looked his name up, and there he is. And he has a consulting company. He actually started in ag. His wife's family had a vineyard, and it had issues and problems, and that was the first ag place that he did start with. He's been, well, he's done just about everything. And I don't have my cell phone to read it,
Yeah.
but I can.
His
post
name
it.
though is Paul Kelly,
Yes, and.
Kelley, so anybody can Google him,
Yes.
you'll find him.
You'll find him. I just put it in and up it came. He was right there. Nice guy. I have a friend over in, near there, and she worked in ag in vineyards for a while, and when he moved on into different districts and stuff, he's very well thought of. He's well spoken. He is a nice guy, because we spent a little time with him after they were in the closed session. And, she says if you get him, he will do awesome for our district. So, yeah.
Can I ask a question? Why does he wanna come here?
Okay, the rest of the story on that is, they own a couple homes up here. He's an avid fisherman,
Okay,
and they've come up here for years.
all right.
So they do have 2 homes up here, and, evidently, he can work remotely for his, consulting business that he has on the side. And I think they just wanna be up here.
How old is he?
I'd say what, mid-50s
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah.
He looks like mid-50s. Yeah.
You said he retired from some, business that he was in?
I think he moved on. He's been in several, businesses over the years, as his resume reads, you know.
Is he drawing a retirement now? I heard you say something about.
I don't think we asked him that, and he doesn't have that in his, little portfolio type thing.
He never applied, did he?
For what?
Position with us?
That's the gentleman
That's
you,
the one you interviewed.
Oh, you mean Paul Kelly?
Yes.
All right.
you were talking to Sarah, you missed
Yes, I
all
was
that.
talking. She was giving me some information I need to research on.
Caitlin?
Yeah, no, that's okay.
I'm sorry.
So, earlier this year, there was a plan that was brought forward to the board by Scott, which was you could buy your water. So if you knew that in a year, during a drought year, you could use 3 acre feet, you could put the money up and reserve 3 acre feet if we were going out and purchasing. Is that something that you guys would address, since that was something that was shot down by Cedric mainly?
The supplemental water program.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I was all for it. I thought it was a good idea, so. Like Cedric said, though, everybody has to come first. They've gotta work on getting water for the whole valley first, and then if we can get extra, then go for it. So I'd be for it that way.
So it sounds like that, Bella Vista is very successful with having that supplemental program. And if you have it in place and ready to go, that if you need to use it, if like you said with Cedric, is that they were able to get us, purchase some water. Now, the issue is, we were able to purchase 1,100 acre feet of water, and we're being pushed to get it, to use it all.
To use it, yeah.
So with the well water and this 1,100, because people have been hurt so badly, nobody's using their water like they have. Russell's not, Sandy's not, my neighbor Fickes not.
I'm
You know,
not.
yeah, these people that were using 5, 6, 800 acre feet, or not acre feet,
Units.
units of water, aren't doing that. And so the 1,100, so basically we've got maybe 2,000 acre feet of water this year that we've used, probably a little over.
Probably a little under.
So, and in the past, we've used, 3, 4, 5 on average in the last 5 years or so.
About 38 to 4,100.
Yeah, so, it's like, okay, if we have that much water, if we're able to get 1,100 acre feet of water again, do we need a supplemental program? But maybe things will be drastic and we won't get the water the way we want it. Yes?
Now, could that be because there's so much pressure, our Badger meters aren't reading the meters correctly? Because Badger told me that those plastic meters, especially the small ones, the 3/4 or whatever it is, you put too much pressure through it, it won't read.
The real old meters.
Well, that's interesting.
The real old meters will not read a trickle of water, like a small leak, they won't read that either.
Yeah, but a lot of them were modified over the years.
Right.
And the ones that were
That's true,
modified,
the ones that
we
were.
took ours in the city of Reading to the corporation yard and had one of they have an apparatus and they put your meter on there and test it. We had ours tested and it was pretty accurate. After it was modified, but the old original 4-inch Badger propeller driven meters would not, low flow would not turn those dials and read.
Right.
So they implemented a charge of $4.20 a month.
Well, a lot of people got into the drip feeds, they're not high flow anymore, so we might not be reading those drip feeders. So we might be using a lot of water, but we're just not reading it.
So who did you talk to, Charles?
Badger themselves, you can call Badger and then tell them what kind of pressure, right? Coyote Road last year was getting 165 PSI.
Yeah.
And I told, cause I've been going over to Amigos and buying, irrigation from them, and I've been blowing them out, even my reducers get blown out. I take them back, they're supposed to be warranted, and I tell them where I'm from, and they won't warranty because it's too much pressure. A lot of these people will only warranty up to 80 PSI. And I'm double that over here on Coyote. So I called Badger, and they said that our municipality should be reducing it prior to the meters. Those meters can't handle that kind of flow.
And Bill did say last night that they do have some reducers out there. Did they say they put one in at your place now?
That's what is that? It's a valve. They
put
did
it
a
on.
valve.
It's where they can
Nice.
shut it off,
Isolation
shut the
valve.
water off,
Okay.
But yeah, so they said, yeah, if you flush your toilet, your meter won't read it. Any low flow, it's not enough to turn the dial on.
Yeah, we're at 100.
One thing I'm trying to get as
When were
they
you?
switched over to QuickBooks
Right
is
now.
to balance between the actual water that they're paying for, either how much well water was pumped and service water through Wissy Town, and then, compare that to the actual billings and see where we are, where's the loss, and what percentage is lost. Because you will lose some through the backwash ponds, obviously through some breaks. I'm trying to get a better feel of where we are. It just takes time for them to upgrade their software so that I can take a look at that.
I can't remember your first name.
Darlene.
Darlene. Okay.
My concern is this base fee that we started out with this year, is that gonna be a cut and dry thing? We never get away from that?
Correct.
Well, it keeps going up every year.
Yeah.
It's going up 1.9% for the next 5 years. Yes.
Three more increases.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask, it's a 3-year the increase that we have right now goes for 3
We
years.
ran one full year at 55, and then it went up 1.9 to 56.05. That can happen 3 more times,
Right.
and then we'll have to run another Prop 2 retain process. Right now, having looked at a lot of the other districts, their CCI, they're running in the range of 6.5 to 10, 11%. We're at 1.9 to cover inflation. And if you talk with Bill about the cost of the valve just across from the district, 6 months ago was 80,000 just to buy the valve. It's about 130 now. Okay, and there's nothing we can do about that inflationary cost.
So now that we have a year under our belt with the increase, and you were talking about this grant, 5 to 6 million, to repair the concrete asbestos pipes, is that?
That's a partial fund.
That is that the intention of the grant?
Yes, it would be
they have
to
been-
improve the infrastructure, the piping and the valves. For years, they did not exercise one of the
Right.
valves and they froze open.
So
So you
now,
can't isolate breaks like they used to be able to.
so since we have a better solvency on our finances, do you think this grant possibly can be processed sooner in the next year or two?
I can only be hopeful. That was why last night I asked Bill about the state grant that we have on our bills, that $1, where we were on there, because it includes 6,000 linear feet of replacing pipe. And that would cover Olinda and maybe 1 or 2 other areas.
And that seems to be the biggest problem for you is the Olinda line.
Well, exactly. It's
Yeah.
the, low end of the district, because we're gravity fed, the pressure's higher there.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like Bill said, or was it Bill or whoever said, when the federal government put the system in and hired the contractor, they did not do the work right, and the government never checked on it. So instead of lining it with, sand and then burying it in sand, they just shoved the rocks and the dirt back in on top of it. And frankly, if you look into it, they should never have been allowed to put that piping in the first place.
Yes.
It's more of a statement than a question, but I moved out here in 2018 but married into a family that's been here forever. And the biggest thing I see with the water district is there's no accountability, none, on either the board or the district itself. That's where it needs to start. People need to be called to the carpet on this stuff, and they're not. It's just shuffled along and moved on to the next day.
So one of the things, I think it was Darlene last night said, she goes, why do I even get up here and talk? It's because you don't ever answer a question that we asked you. So there is no accountability. When we discovered that 2 employees received 5 raises in 1 year, one employee went from 48,000 to 86,000 in one year. He did make a statement, Dave Zalbaldano, that he was a board director for less than a year, but he made a statement that he was appalled by that, but that there was nothing that you could hold them accountable for because there was nothing in the regulations that you could hold them accountable for what they did. And to me, those raises should have received board approval on, and they didn't. They just let that general manager run amok. And we were told at one meeting, well, they weren't gonna micromanage the staff. It's like, holy Toledo, that's your job, is to oversee.
Isn't that their job to oversee the
Yeah.
whole thing?
And they
Actually, to clarify, the board's job is to oversee the operation of the district through the manager. And it's the manager who's supposed to oversee the supervisors and the staff, field and office staff. So the board's not supposed to stick the nose into how the manager runs the staff. But if we have issue, we bring the manager in and discuss with him, why was it handled that way, and
no,
maybe give him some guidance.
That's gotta change.
So there's a lot of rules and regulations and procedures, and that's one of the things the planning and steering committee should have been looking at, are all of these old rules and regulations, because you'll find some that say that the general manager can't do such and such until it has board approval, and then there's another manual that says the board gives all of this power to the general manager. So you've got 2 different regulations that contradict each other, but the part of the problem is that there was no direction from the board. I mean, we kept hearing that they liked the general manager liked the board because they just rubber stamped everything,
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So yes, you've got to hold Scott accountable, you've got to hold that board currently accountable, and it really takes everybody going to the meetings to say pull up the packets, pull up the agendas, so you can see what's going on. What the Board of Supervisors does, which is nice, and I get their agenda and I get their meeting highlights. And that may be something that would be nice to have, because you're not getting your minutes timely. But you could have, it's just a short synopsis that goes out by email. Here is the meeting highlights, here's what they did. And that's helpful, that you can see the agenda, and then a week later you get the meeting highlights, you know, right away. Not the whole set of minutes, but just some highlights. So I would like to see something like that too.
There's gonna be staff time for that, and we've kind of, one of the things I pushed is eating up a lot of staff time. And that is people who are behind in paying their bills. With Bill Polymace and I working on the budget to bring it in line, I discovered that approximately 15% was an estimate of the customers were not paying their bills. And that means the base rate with all the tag-ons, which comes to $65 and change. So when you start figuring out that 15% of 2,710 people aren't paying that bill, including the water they've used, I calculated out to be a little over $500,000 a year. So I pushed, and they've started putting out late notices. They actually went out and did door hangers, 24-hour notice, or we're turning your water off. And within a couple of days, there were all kinds of people in the office. Kristen told me that close to 100 people had either come in, paid the bill in full, or had set up payment plans. So, but that's eating up a lot of staff time. And that includes the fact that there's a volunteer in there right now, putting in probably pretty close to 40 hours a week, helping with that. That's Sally.
But, and the last 2 years, of course, they couldn't do anything because of the COVID.
That's right.
And the state regulations that you couldn't turn anybody's water off. So now they're getting back into the program with that. So that's good. So yes, if we could get all of the money that people need to pay, there's an extra $500,000 in our kitty, which is important. So you have to realize they weren't doing that even prior to COVID. They weren't doing these door hangers or trying to get the funds.
They figured that it was gonna take up too much staff time and cost. Might cost $3,000. Well, when you're losing $500,000, what's 3,000 or 10,000?
Right, yeah.
I said, come on, guys.
Yeah.
It pays for itself.
I worked at the water district in Anderson.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you, the guys who read the meters are the ones who red tag. They don't get an extra person to do that. They have a habitual list of people who don't wanna pay their bill, you know?
They have to
And
be
we
at
have 'em
least
on a clip.
61 days behind though.
Okay, but I'm just gonna tell you, this is how the city of Anderson did it. If there was people who didn't pay their bill, they had so many days to pay it, and then they got red tagged. And if they didn't pay it after the red tag, it's off, their
Yeah.
water's off. And if they come in the office and wanna pay their bill, they have to pay the whole thing. They don't get to pay a percentage or set up
Yeah, they
payments.
do payment plans here.
Yeah, they don't do
Well,
that.
Yeah.
there are a lot of people that are very low income out here.
Charles?
So the city of Reading, if you don't have electric or water, you can't live in your house. What's the county say about not?
I got a
having
neighbor
water?
kicked off their property and having the whole property red tagged because their water meter had been locked, they cut it, and then the district pulled the meter and they didn't have electricity. I called code enforcement,
From the
and
county?
they came out from the county and they red tagged their property. And they were given 2 weeks to get off the property.
So they got,
And
you have to have water.
they ended up vacating. The parents had lived there and had passed away. And the son who lived in Reading was trying to sell the property, and the daughter wouldn't vacate the property. So by getting her red tagged and thrown off the property, he was able to clean it up, sell it, and, you know, take care of the family. So, but yeah, that's all it takes. If there's no electricity or water to a property, call the county, code enforcement. They'll investigate.
But the one thing that you guys need to know is these people have for the last 2 years have gone to weekly meetings and gone to the Clear Creek Water Board meetings, even though, you know, we had a lot of other things we'd rather have done. But if we don't go to those meetings and hold them accountable, we could end up in the same predicament. We have to do honorable people, and we have to hold them accountable.
I appreciate everybody who's gone for this last 2 years, because it's been a nightmare. And I really do appreciate you people who have gone to meetings. I haven't attended all of them, but I really appreciate it, because you put it on the internet and you keep us informed, which you go to a meeting and like I said, they don't give us any information. Your 3 minutes is up,
Yeah.
My 3 minutes is
Oh,
up.
I was interrupted during my 3 minutes a number of
Yeah.
times by board members yelling at me.
Ginger.
Erwin.
Let's
Cedric.
go.
Chuck,
I remember.
Chuck scolded you.
Yes, he did too. Yes.
Yes, Russell?
Well, I'd like to move backwards a little bit and get back to this audits. Now, we're doing something backwards and we don't even realize it. You have to have an audit, so you know where the money went before. You can't do anything forward with monies you don't know where it went. These audits are very important. We need to have that thing, and we need to push on the board,
Yeah.
it has to be now.
Yeah.
We're tired, we've
I'm
been here
tired
a
of
couple
the-
years, we're tired of it. Give us the truth, we'll live with the truth. But we can't be having higher prices for water and all the things that we're doing and find out, oh geez, there's $2 million that they squandered.
Well,
Did you
that's
know that
partly
they had-
because they're not starting the audits until near the end of the next fiscal year.
Well, that's
And
too
I
bad.
wanna
We need to
change
start
that
it
within
now.
90 days of the end of the
So-
fiscal year.
We
We should
can't
have
be waiting
everything
for-
together for an audit company.
They would wanna keep that, every year they're gonna push on that back, that it should be take longer and take longer.
No.
We can't wait any longer.
It won't happen if we get good board members on there.
Well, but you see, it won't happen, but we're not worried about the future, we need to know where we're really at. In other words, I hear you talking about grants and everything, but I did 30 years in aerospace, and gosh darn it anyway, I paid 24% on some of my loans. But gosh darn it, I didn't ask for help, but you know what? I didn't have the state or somebody say, well, we gave you so much water, now we're taking back 3/4 of it.
Yep.
Nobody took back anything from me, because I paid it for myself.
Right
And this
now,
is crap. We've gotta get on the stick of, what do we want? We
So-
want an audit. When do we want it? We want it now. This
So-
is where we're at. We gotta know. We can't really know what we can pay somebody and what we can do and can't do, just because Irwin's saying, well, you know, this is ridiculous.
I don't disagree with you.
We agree.
But you have to understand is the current audit company kept coming back and asking for more and more information that the district didn't have.
More and
They
more
needed the
information they didn't
minutes
wanna give up.
for every month.
Right, this
from
is
all
a
the
new
board
audit
meetings.
company that's doing it this year, so when the last bookkeeper said that they were doing an excellent job and she thought they were finding things, so this audit should be a good one.
It should be a good one. However, what you have to understand, the audits that they've been doing every year are just more surface type audits. It's something just the state controller asks for.
The minimum.
They're not in depth at all. So so when somebody asked about, well, how do you find out where the problems are? And Dave, at one of the finance meetings, he says, the information, I think it was TJ actually that had said it, she goes, well, if it doesn't balance, it doesn't balance. And Dave is going, well, it's the sub-accounts that don't balance. It's not the main accounts. So when that information gets to the auditor, he's only looking at these figures. He's not looking at these over here, they're all screwed up. He's just looking at this list and making his decision, but it's all
It's all screwed up.
it's all surface stuff that they look at, and they don't go in, because, we knew that there were problems. How could we be broke when we had so much money? Spending $800,000 on a lawsuit against the Bureau of Reclamation, there's where $800,000 went. $120,000 or whatever dump truck that,
Get rid of it.
so. But, yes, we hope this audit is gonna.
But when will it be done? You see, that's the problem.
The last I heard, it's in partner review before they release it, because they have to do their due diligence or
they?
they're
Board?
accountable.
McNulty, Horton, McNulty and Saturn.
Okay.
They're the accounting firm out of Chico.
And they're new to the district. I pushed for them to change accounting companies a while back before being on the board, and they agreed to that, so. The other thing I can share with you is the activity reports for the last 6 months of last fiscal year, that's January through June, are now done. The activity reports. I received them in an email today. I haven't had time to go through all of them yet. And because we've switched to QuickBooks now, the format will change a little bit, but they should be coming in a more timely fashion. And I can use in the interim between audits and whatnot, activity reports to give me a better idea of where we are financially.
Are they gonna be made public?
Yes,
When?
but they have to go, hopefully before the next meeting. I'll check with Bill on that. But they are now done.
Anybody else? So,
I have a question for each of you separately. Beverly, what do you see as the most challenging thing that you'd like to tackle on the district?
well, like I said earlier, there's so many cotton picking things.
Well, pick one.
Irwin?
No, not board members, because that takes.
Infrastructure and
Yeah,
finance.
I think with planning and steering, you've gotta start looking at your policies and your regulations and your procedures so that that gets cleaned up, because you're gonna have a new general manager on board, and you've gotta make sure that everything goes directly and that he gets the direction from the board.
All right.
We've gotta look at the finances, because the finances are
Don't
still.
go too far, one area.
Well, you can't, and
Yeah,
so.
you can, because then I can ask Terry.
Ask
So,
Terry.
if you are on the board, what are you gonna do about it?
Fix the finances.
Yeah.
Well, I'm already working on that, but I do need help.
Well, you're gonna see my body down at
Okay.
down there almost every day. So, and it's going to be reading and investigating and looking at finances, it's gonna be looking at the books, it's gonna get all the minimal training that they give you on whatever it is. But, you know, I, for those of you who don't know, I went down there and read 2010 to 2017 minutes that, or 2017 are on the website. So I read 2010 to 2016 minutes. I sat down, and it took me several days to read all of those minutes, because I wanted to know where we went sideways. And we went sideways almost as soon as Mr. Bourne became general manager. Sandy?
Pretty much.
I would like to see more affordable water rates.
I don't know how we're gonna do that, but
Care.
that could be a brainstorming, you know, workshop. How, if the Bureau of Reclamation is gonna charge us up the yin-yang for our water now, and charge more for ag water than they do for domestic water, how do you fight that? You know, how do you fight the Bureau? And if they give us zero water, and we're having to pay $250 an acre foot to $400 an acre foot, or $5 for our well water, how do we make it more affordable?
Well, I know it's a big problem, but, like if Don and I were to use 70% of our 2019 usage, our water bill this month would have been $711.
I believe it,
We can't afford that.
but we can't sell the water for less than it costs the district either.
Well, the water usage is gonna go down if these rates stay like this.
And I have something I'm gonna try to work on with the next general manager
I appreciate that.
to hopefully cut that by that. At 250 an acre foot, before the water goes through the treatment facility, it would be about 57 cents per unit. Then you're gonna have to tack on 28 to 31 cents per unit because of the cost of running it through the filtration plant. So now you're up to close to 90 cents, which still is a bit high. I'd like to get it down to about 60 to 65 if we can. But toes were stepped on a couple of years ago that I need the pain to go away before I approach some people.
So I'm gonna just finish up with mine, as I think everything's important, and I realize that you think we can only focus on one thing, but I think we have to focus
Well,
on
I'm
it.
just your
on it
top
all.
one.
So I'm not gonna give you top one, I think it's all
Okay.
important.
Terry, same question?
Mine's the, policies and procedures, they need to be looked at real deeply, and transparency. We
Okay.
need more transparency.
One other thing that needs to be gone through is the contracts. They need to be updated.
What contracts?
Contracts
vendors.
with any outside entity, any actioner or anybody else. You need to go through all those contracts and update them. That is part of the problem that we got into with Cal OES.
Well, that's the
That's the
procurement.
procurement
Right, but
policies
they also
problem.
indicated that, we allowed, not Action, but Pace Engineering to, handle some of the paperwork, and they didn't do it right.
Right, but that was because they didn't follow the correct policies and procedures.
Right.
We need to write them, and we need to make sure that they're following them before they write a contract. So,
Well, they used to have employees that knew how to do that work, they didn't need to hire Haxner Excavating, they could rely on their own.
Save a lot of money.
All those employees came here to work on the project in the first place, they helped put it in, and they did bed a lot of it with sand, because we saw a lot of it being constructed. It wasn't all done perfect, but a lot of it was done pretty well, and that pipeline was supposed to last a lifetime. Yeah.
Whose lifetime?
I like the way you guys are gonna watch over what's going on. That other board we've had since the water started has been their head in the sand, just let it go. Now you try to straighten it out, I like that.
Well,
And
it's
it's
all
gonna
started
take
with
time.
that 2019 meeting, you guys, the HVCC has come a long way with straightening out this water district, because all those problems just kind of accumulated at that Proposition 218 meeting,
The 2021?
no, the 2019 meeting.
The
Well,
RCAC.
well, no, the 2019 was when the district tried to do it themselves, and we met at the school.
I was at that meeting.
Yeah, and then the following month, Dennis shows up, cause I went back and was reading minutes, and Dennis goes back and says, I think we should form a group and come up with our own study on what the rates should be, because they had screwed it all up. They had given us the wrong information, and so the board backed away. And so,
First attempt.
instead, what Kurt did was got a hold of the RCAC, and then in 2020 in August is when they came up with those $500 a month.
I don't know what it cost us, but it was just nothing but
Yeah.
stupidity.
Like the last meeting I went to, Johanna got up and said, you guys just don't know what all Skip has done for you.
His banker does.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, Joanne.
I have a question about how we get the word out to the community.
Yeah.
That you are the candidates that we're supporting.
So I don't know what the protocol is on Facebook, Chris might. I know the one gentleman that's running against Brenda Haynes at ACID, he's got his own webpage so that he can promote himself. So I think Pam made a comment on Facebook today that there's these candidates. I certainly don't think that's appropriate for me to do that. Terry and I both have signs, that we're trying to do, and flyers that we can pass out. And I may go down to the store and just stand there. We were both at the barbecue the fire department put on, and went around and talked to a few people, both Terry and I put a candidate statement in for the election. So you're gonna know a little bit about us from that.
And I'm recording it and I'm gonna post it on YouTube, so on the Happy Valley Community Committee YouTube page, it will be posted by tomorrow morning, so if you have friends in the community who wanna hear our candidates, they'll be able to view it directly, and I will also post it on our 3 neighborhood Facebook groups.
You can call friends and neighbors and let them know.
But,
You guys got my vote as far as I'm.
thank you.
Thank you.
So I don't know, Joanne, do you have any other ideas?
Well, I think we could go in individually on, the Happy Valley, Facebook page, and there's another one. And maybe ourselves just put in how much we are supporting you two, and maybe that would get passed around.
Right, I think that's probably the better way to
You
do
can
it.
make your own sign and stick it in your yard by your road.
Well, no, but I think if you guys did that, what have you done, Chris?
Oh, I have my own Facebook page and then a website too, so.
Yeah.
But hey, you guys should be able to share on the Happy Valley pages. If they take it down, they take it down, but I mean,
Then we put it back up again.
Yeah, and if that happens, if they don't let you advertise on there, put it on there, then I would just open up another Facebook page with Lincoln and Fickes and do a Facebook page.
Okay.
I have 2, but I need a bigger one, yeah. She's just saying that we need to put a real big sign in front of my place.
Right over the hole.
Well,
In front of
okay,
all
write
my
that down, maybe we can,
So we need to
I think,
figure out how
I
to
think
make that
Terry,
bigger.
I think Terry and I can afford to buy some bigger signs.
I had to get that other one before they ran over it, so.
I think this is the better, cause it has your names right there, and where people will see it.
Did you guys have your signs made locally?
I don't know where she had them done.
Okay.
It was online.
Yeah.
Okay, cause, Minuteman, printing in Reading is really good. I mean, they're cheaper than most places. Usually they used to always get them made out of state, out of town, but they're as cheap as anybody, so.
Okay.
Yeah, Minuteman Press.
I saw you had little flyers.
Uh-huh,
Couldn't we take a picture of that and then post it on a Facebook
Absolutely.
page?
yep,
Yeah, there's 3 different flyers here.
Right there.
Are they up on the bulletin boards at the 2 shopping centers?
they have been and they've been taken down, so I don't know what
You just
the,
have to keep going back.
Yeah.
Well, you know, word of mouth
Saying different.
these days is different than in the past. It's all electronic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
one person putting something on Facebook, 1,000 people could see it.
yeah,
And if 200 of those people live out here, they're gonna see who's running, because you two are the only 2 that showed up. Obviously, that third person doesn't really care or understand what's at stake.
B,
She.
What, she.
yeah.
no, B, doesn't understand.
Oh.
Oh.
I don't know who it is, but.
Yeah,
You can walk your neighborhood. I'm gonna take flyers and walk down my neighborhood.
My neighborhood's here.
I have the water break, but there are 2 other concerns, yeah.
Yeah, but that's how we got the water, when we were gonna get the water raised. That's how we got rid of it, is we walked our neighborhoods and got signatures.
But we did a parade.
Yeah, we could do a parade.
good,
Drive.
Another little tractor
Somebody
parade?
drives
Yeah.
by every day, sees that sign, that name starts.
I've
Yeah.
got some small ones in the back of my pickup.
November
Grab one and put it on our fence.
you know, and that's, you know, that's one thing, so with Dennis and Sandy, you know, that's something that would be interesting perhaps with Firewise, is a tractor parade. That was so much fun when we did that
We
parade.
needed some fun right then. We were in a bad spot.
Yeah,
Yep.
but we could do it in conjunction with Firewise
Well, you got the
and,
cleanup coming up here real quick too.
yeah, I
That's
think I'm leaving.
October 8th, is it?
Is it,
I was just checking.
yeah,
I think it's October 8th.
I think you're right.
The roadside
Well-
cleanup.
I don't think we can get together that quickly.
Yeah.
That's also Big
October.
Bike Weekend,
That's what?
Big Bike Weekend for Reading.
Oh.
Okay. But anyways, that's a thought that, yeah, you'd have to do it really quick, huh, with November 8th. But anyways, that's just something that's, I don't know, people were really angry that we went down Palm though. The people that were trying to get through.
Drive.
Then go down on Linda where
It's
all
a
the bikes are.
raceway.
Yeah.
So keep in mind, it's everybody gets a mailed out ballot now, so those
Yep.
come out in 30 days before the election, so really, the election is on November 8th, but the voting starts about, October 9th.
Okay.
So that's really, yeah, that's
It's
just a big
coming
one.
up quick.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, you wanna jump on it.
California.
Did you say you're out of town
Melon.
the 7th?
I leave October 2nd through that
Okay.
Saturday.
The 8th.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of doing something out here, so I would have you guys there too, but you're gonna be gone that week.
I am.
I'll be here.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That'll work.
Do you have any
What about the
suggestions
15th?
for our water district, seeing as how you're here?
So this is, for those of you who don't know, this is Chris Kellstrom, and he is running for Supervisor 5, our district, so,
And he has been here faithfully for the last six,
Six
7
months,
months.
yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, he is not, this is not just to show up before the election.
Yeah.
He's been here for us.
Yeah, my suggestion is these 2 people right here, that's my suggestion. That was my suggestion a couple months ago, it's like, how to get somebody here to run and get on that board, and got me, so.
That cares.
Absolutely, so Scott made it on there, and then these 2, I mean, your problems are going to be over.
I know, you kept trying and they kept, no.
Yeah,
Well, it was a
Well,
thorn
they
in their
didn't want it,
side.
I know.
yeah, I was there at the meeting that Scott got turned down the 5th time,
Yeah.
and that was
Chuck
revolting.
That's when Patricia-
Revolting. Yeah,
was put in. She's a nice lady. though.
she's a nice lady, but I think she's frustrated.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you,
All right. We're all good, thank you guys.
Hold on, Beverly.